Hello there, YouTube. Devin here again today, finally trying to get back on the schedule with the videos here after finally now getting a day off from work and stuff like that. All the other good jazz with the new job and everything. The schedule's been a little hectic, and the fact that I've been breaking like a ton of work trucks because their fleet's on our last legs, it's been making my days horrendously long. But today I have a cool review for you and a cool kind of little bit interesting piece of history. This is an ammunition boot here in front of you. It is a Canadian pattern ammunition boot. So after World War I, obviously Canada would adopt their own kind of pattern of ammunition boot that they would start kind of fielding here in the 30s. During World War I, they would receive a ton of B5 boots. They would continue to use that pattern for quite a long time. And then obviously getting a bunch of World War I surplus from Britain, they would continue to use British pattern ammunition boots and B5 boots for quite a long time. In the 30s, they would develop their own pattern though and begin to make it, and that is this pattern. The easiest way to tell a Canadian pattern ammunition boot from a British pattern ammunition boot is this Vamp Stitch right here. Their Vamp Stitch is just this kind of slash type, and it has a bunch of reinforcement stitching around it. Normally three rows in kind of this little rectangle here on the Vamp Stitch. They are normally also slightly taller than a British pair of ammunition boots. Not by much, usually just an inch. It kind of varies depending on what time they were made and obviously who made them and stuff like that, but usually the Canadian pattern ones are just ever so slightly taller than the British pattern one. There would be kind of some changes based on the hobnails and the heel irons and the toe irons and stuff like that, as well as the amount of screws and the amount of hobnails they would have based on what point of the war they were in and stuff. But most of the Canadian pattern boots, you would see all 4 screws in the toe iron, whereas the British standard was 3. For some reason they would have 4 holes, but you would only have 3 screws in them. And then you would oftentimes see 4 rows of 5 hobnails. So they would get 20 hobnails total, whereas you see a lot of the British pattern would be 13. You would see kind of during the war the Canadians would drop down to 15 and stuff like that. And then also you would see this pattern later be given full rubber soles starting in 1946 after World War II. Obviously there wouldn't be a shortage of rubber anymore, so you would see them kind of go to the same sole pattern that the US like 43 pattern combat boots would have. The service shoes and everything from World War II, you would kind of see that full rubber sole that has that kind of diamond texture on it. And then you would see the kind of weird heel, rubber heel and stuff too. But it would be stacked leather other than that. You could see some of these with the paratrooper soles on them. You can see versions with the lugged sole, kind of like the commando boots from World War II. It really varies depending on when they were making them. You would see a lot of the rubber sole boots being used in Korea, along with a lot of the hobnail versions being used in Korea as well. But that's the easiest way to tell a Canadian pattern pair of combat boots from a British pair of combat boots. And just to kind of prove that, I have a pair of British DMS boots here that I wear pretty often. As you can see that they are a little worn out. You can see that they have kind of the more classic ammunition boot Vamp Stitch, that big kind of arched back Vamp Stitch, whereas the Canadian pattern has just this kind of straight down slash type of Vamp Stitch. But other than that, they are pretty much the same. That's just about how it is. They both have kind of the same amount of eyelets. They would obviously kind of vary. The British normally have 6 to 7 eyelets, and normally the Canadian ones have 7 to 8 eyelets per side. The Canadian ones hardly ever come with a toe cap. You don't really see toe-capped Canadian ammunition boots. It was just an economy thing of saving the leather, and it was because of a holdover from World War I. They actually really liked the B5 boots a lot. The B5s never really came with toe caps, so the Canadians just kind of stuck out with that. There's never really had toe caps, whereas a lot of the British ones would have toe caps. There'd be some officer models without toe caps and stuff like that, obviously. But other than that, they're pretty much the same construction. They have the same kind of heel panel shape. As you can see here, the only difference would really be this kind of Vamp Stitch area and the height. It's an interesting pair of boots. Now, where I got this pair of boots, this is a What Price Glory reproduction pair. These are their ammunition boots without toe caps. Now, if you're looking for a British pair, these aren't it. These are the Canadian pattern. Their ammunition boots without toe caps are the Canadian pattern ammunition boots, and they're really one of the only companies that you can get a Canadian pattern pair of ammunition boots from. When I got these, the leather was horrendously dry. They are actually still horrendously dry. You can see on this one, the crease is very like inconsistent, and that is because the leather is so dry. I'm actually very kind of gradually hydrating these. But other than that, the construction is pretty historically accurate. They're fairly decent, high quality. My only complaint is that the leather is obviously a little dry. But the fact that a lot of these boots are kind of made over in the Middle East and India, and they're stored in the United Arab Emirates, which is where What Price Glory has their huge kind of warehouse. It's a very dry environment, so it makes sense that they're dry. There's some tips and tricks and stuff that I have on my channel to rehydrating leather and everything very, very well. But if you're looking for a pair of Canadian ammunition boots, or just kind of a different pair of Commonwealth surplus type stuff to have or wear, this is a pretty good pair. You can get these for, I think, about $90 US. They're actually pretty cheap. They're not bad actually for what you're getting to construction wise. Obviously the steel's gonna have a little rust on them and stuff like that, but that's pretty easy. That'll rub off with just use and stuff like that, so it's not too uncommon. If you did want to kind of go for an interwar or post-war pair, you would just have to add a fourth row of hobnails. You could even see some kind of after towards the end of World War II, they would hobnail them all the way up to the heel, actually, and that was kind of something that was done on the Canadian 43 pattern boots too. You would see them hobnailed all the way up to the heel, which was just kind of weird. I don't know why they did that. There's really no reason for that, but they did. I don't know why. There probably is some kind of reason, or maybe they just had a bunch of extra hobnails around there. It's like, use them all, and so they did. But yeah, after World War II in 1946, you'd start seeing them be made with rubber materials and stuff like that. And a lot of people didn't know about this pattern of ammunition boot and stuff like that. It actually kind of goes back. This design goes back quite a long ways as to why Canada went for this pair of boot. This is more kind of classic of the Boer War pattern of ammunition boot. And it goes even further back into like the 1860s and 70s, kind of to the U.S. Brogan style of marching shoe that you would see used in the Civil War. Has kind of the same Vamp Stitch and everything like that. It was just very easy to manufacture, and it's very easy to cut these panel shapes out and stuff like that. It also uses less thread to stitch one of these, and it means you have more leather on the side of your boots, so you won't wear through the sides of your boots as quickly. So you're getting a little bit more durability, a little bit more ruggedness out of this, as well as it's easier to cut and easier to stitch. That's about it. Whereas the British pattern is kind of the more classic style. You would see this, you get a little bit more flexibility with this, but you can rub through here because it's only one layer of leather and stuff like that. It's just you kind of, what do you like, what do you don't like. So, but it's a boot rooted in history. They're very, very interesting, very, very neat pairs. These are going to have some quite break-in. This is like 7-ounce leather. It's actually very, very heavy leather, which is how ammunition boots were kind of known to be for. They were meant to be durable. They were not meant to be comfortable. And boy, are they durable. And boy, are they uncomfortable. At least at first. Once you break them in really nice and you get the leather all properly hydrated and flexible and stuff, these will be an absolute great pair to wear. Their pair comes with leather laces. You can see a lot of the Canadian pairs of ammunition boots issued with cotton laces, even during World War II, because they had proximity to cotton through America, and it was a lot easier to get. So leather was a precious resource during World War II, obviously needed for making boots and shoes and stuff, so using leather for laces was kind of hard to do economically, whereas you could see cotton laces become pretty prevalent. If you're a Canadian soldier anyways, you could have cotton or leather laces. There's a lot of variations of shoes and boots you could wear throughout World War II and into the Korean War. The Canadians would continue to wear this pattern of boot basically up until the 60s. You could see some units using these into the late 60s until basically you see the Mark III pattern boots and the Mark II pattern boots really kind of hit the market in full scale. So you could see some units still wearing these, yeah, into the 60s. That's not too uncommon. The Swiss would wear a hobnailed boot into the 60s as well. You know, there's quite a few countries that would be basically wearing World War II holdovers into the 60s, and Canada is not really well known for investing heavily in their military, despite how well their soldiers historically tend to fight. But it's a good boot, so there really wasn't any reason to replace it, especially with tons of surplus sitting around after a world war. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and you subscribe if you like this sort of thing. If you do own a pair of boots of these or are interested in a pair of boots like this, I highly recommend it. I'd very much like to hear about your experience if you have bought a pair of boots like these, or if you know where to get maybe a nicer quality pair of Canadian pattern ammunition boots. That'd be kind of nice. I'd like to get one eventually, another pair, and have all the iron removed off this, or get a pair made that have the rubber soles on them for a Korean War impression. That'd be really neat. So if you know where to get one of those, I'd very much like to hear about it in the comments. Thank you all for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you like this sort of thing, please like, comment, subscribe. Helps me in the algorithms. I'll leave a link to the Patreon. As little as $1 a month gets you into the Discord. If that's something you're interested, if you're interested in joining a cult, that's what I call it. It's my cult. If you're interested in joining a cult, that's the way to do it. As little as $1 a month gets you into the Patreon. It's the best way to show me pictures or ask me questions or anything. That's really the only way I do it, because I can't answer everyone's questions, and I can't look at everyone's pictures, and I can't help them identify everything without having to charge, because that would be a full-time job. So you get a whole month's access for $1. You can give me a lifetime pledge, which is $12 a year basically, to get unlimited access to ask me questions, show me pictures, help you identify stuff. And people in the Discord get first access if I'm going to sell anything. So I'm also very happy to help them with problems as far as, you know, maintaining leather and stuff like that, and how to do stuff if they ever need any help. So if that's something that interests you, as little as $1 a month gets you there. So, and it means the world to me to help support the channel. Thank you all for stopping by. It's good to be making videos again now that work's kind of evening out and stuff like that, and all that other cool jazz. It's great to see and hear from each and every one of you, and hopefully I can see all of you here in the next video. Bye-bye now.